Yeah, like call the meeting to order for the airport committee. We have a quorum, we have, yes, Mark and Scott, I guess we consider.
Mark off the commission?
Well, he's timed out for now until the second week. Adjustments, any adjustments to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, there is some information in your packet that wasn't in the packet that was emailed out the other day. It's email correspondence from our consultant and Kelly Carlson at the FAA explaining the RNAV in a little more detail. So that's information that's on the agenda, just wasn't in your packets the other day.
Okay, just in the package. We'll get back to that when we come up, Article 9. On that GPS, the questions that I was just talking to John about. Review the minutes of the last meeting. Anybody have a chance to look them over? Any adjustments, corrections?
I think the only correction I thought I saw was at the end to adjourn, it said 4, said 4-0. There's only 3 of us here. Is that correct?
I swear I was in July.
No, you weren't.
No, I wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're right. Last Monday of the month, I was out.
Just with God, it
It's a
said 4.
typo.
Yeah.
Okay.
that's it.
I'll correct that.
So I'd take a motion to accept the meeting, the minutes as read.
So moved.
Any opposed? Unanimous, I guess, take them as read. All right, public to speak on any agenda or a non-agenda item, I'm sorry. Scott, I did see your email to Joe this afternoon about that power thing. Would that not in fact be the association's problem, not the town's?
From my understanding is, at least from the meeting today, that they're thinking that it's actually it's the town because of the town. It was the town plow that did the damage to the building.
Well, I know, but in all fairness, I mean, there's some shared bit of concern for that area would be having any concerns for that great big bush coming out of the building and shoving the hot top all the way to the
Yeah,
road.
no, I understand.
So there is a little bit of a mixed combination of errors in that area.
Yeah, well, maybe that's something that I just volunteered to write the note to let the committee know about it.
Okay, I
That's
mean,
all.
and I'm fine with the town fixing it, but I mean, I would think that it would be the HOA, or whatever you wanna call it,
Yeah,
would have some concern about that power meter and that bush.
well, maybe there's something that can be done in conjunction negotiating with them. So
Possibly, I'm not sure.
fortunately, the new president is here.
I'm not impressed
Okay,
as of
so-
today.
Yeah.
Okay, so, without bringing it up, does anybody else see that email from Scott on the,
Yes,
corrosion, on the
yes.
heaving of that power station?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I volunteered to write the letter or write the note to just let the commission know about it.
Well, I guess it would be my opinion as a board, and I can ask if anybody else has any disagreements with me, is that Joe asked public works guy, I'm having a blank, Earl, to take a quick peek at it and see if it's an easy fix or it's something that should be a joint fix.
Right, so
Uh,
we're aware of this, that the town did strike it. We've made temporary provisions there, but it hasn't been.
Again, I
fixed
understand, but
permanently.
winter damage around here is not uncommon. And it's not always the fault of the operator.
Well, let me be clear, we bumped it, we've made temporary provisions to make it safe. We're going to make it permanently.
Okay, I'm just saying that as an airport, I mean, I don't think that the town should assume all the responsibility of some rash at the hands. I mean, the owners have some responsibility. I've never talked to you about the town hitting in front of my door, I just left it dead. I'm just saying, there's some assumed responsibility of, regardless, I'm not questioning, I like all the guys, don't misunderstand, I just don't think we should put all the burden on the town. Anybody have any question to that, any argument with that? I mean,
It depends on, I would say probably that's a conversation to have with some of the guys in that HOA. I mean, I am part of that HOA, but I'm not in leadership or anything. I'm just sort of bringing up the topics. or the
Understood, and don't
talk
shoot the
about it,
messenger either, I'm just saying that it could easily be a shared correction pretty quick.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think the way it was conveyed to me was that it was a mistake that the town. that the
Understood,
town
that
made.
bush has been coming out and shoving that hot dog up for 10 years, and not one of the 10 packets got it. I cut it once, just because I was going by and hated looks of it, but somebody should have put some weed killer on it years ago.
Yeah,
Now you've got a
and-
horrible mess there, it's the thing that's gotta be repaired. That's certainly not the town's problem. So anyway, that's my feeling, you're in
Yep.
my voice.
Yep.
Yeah,
Just
we
to
all-
close the loop, give a little bit more of the full picture here, so it doesn't appear as though, it's been forgotten. The extent of the repair required the electrical conduit, the concrete is missing because that had to be jackhammered out. It's happened in the winter, obviously.
Yeah.
So I understand that it's not exactly the way it was prior to the winter. I don't feel that it's unsafe.
No.
And I'm aware of it, and we are working on it.
I'm saying that, been hanging around there for 35 years. We've had our share of, oh no, oh yes, and we just fixed it. I mean, it's just
It's a major part of it. So
realizing that,
the major safety issue, believe me, was taken care of.
realizing that it's a partnership. So anything up, I said, well, how about anything else on the non-agenda item? Mark? Non-agenda. Okay, guess we'll move on to 6. Correspondence to be read to the record. Jim and Scott. Jim's forgotten.
I don't know that you need to read those emails into the
Right.
record.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
so I
oh,
don't need to.
That's why for me.
We've been just going back and forth.
I
I'm
read, I
trying
saw, I
to
saw,
educate myself, so,
I saw,
yeah.
It's the other one.
yeah, I saw. Okay, reports of the commission. Not sure, never was sure exactly what that meant.
So that's where you folks would report out.
Okay, I was under the impression that before freeze, or sometime in July, we were gonna have a workshop at a meeting at the airport that was nothing more than a walk around. We discussed that a year ago.
And that was the intent, then the workload of your bylaws and the other things.
So
came
some
up.
things like this power, like that tree, like the whatever's, those things would have been seen by all, and then we would say, that's kind of, it's road rash or it's serious. The moving of the taxiway, I'm sorry, the apron into what I think is 2025, just a visit of the members so that we could share with the selectmen how critical or non-critical it might be to do in 2025. Any one person looking at those things is not fair. So anyway, I just want to bring back up that walk around that I thought we were gonna have sometime before July, maybe August.
Or could we just schedule
Yeah, what to-
one before the next meeting or something?
Yeah, it may be easier to actually just have a walk around without the constraints of the meeting. That way you're not gonna have to worry about it.
So
Take a
that
few
every-
minutes and
so that everybody's up to speed with whatever's happening. And we can discuss that, I guess, today or whenever, again, we'll see how this,
Can we pick another off Monday?
I don't really want to take another off Monday, I'd rather do a half an hour before Monday, I mean, could we do the next Monday at 4 o'clock? Does that work?
It's good with me.
Does that
Go up there.
make sense,
before the
instead of
meeting.
off Monday for everybody, just do it half an hour prior to the next meeting,
On the 30th?
30th of next month,
There's
weather
this-
permitting,
September,
weather permitting,
is half an hour gonna be enough time?
I'm sorry.
Half an hour enough
All the
time?
time.
I don't know, so what's the worst case, was to we just have the meeting, come to order it down here, right, or? I don't know, I just think that we should do, I think we should do a walk around here before fall.
Yeah, I think schedule it now before. We don't.
So weather permitting, even if it does run late. Weather permitting, assuming it's a dry and not snowy day, can we schedule a 4 o'clock instead of a 4:30? Or do you want to do a 4:45 instead of 4:30? It all depends on Joe's time.
Let's just do a 4 o'clock.
Get 4 o'clock and we'll try to rush through it.
Let's do a 4 o'clock. Make it even.
4 o'clock it is, anybody have a problem with that? Or let's, you want to take a vote on it or just do it?
Do it.
Do it, okay. Okay, report to the airport manager.
I don't have anything except what's on the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, nothing from him. Moving on to old business. Airport commission bylaws, the RNAV GPSD, and the hangar leases. How do you want to approach the bylaws? I think we need to have a workshop to do it in an environment that is less structured. Is that what Jim, you mentioned that, no?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's the best way to go. You know, sit around and talk at a table, work it out. You know.
And when might you think anybody might want to do that?
Question.
What's anybody's feeling on working on the bylaws and a roundtable discussion?
I'm content with doing that tomorrow.
Pick a day.
I can do that anytime this week,
Tomorrow,
tomorrow, the next day,
I can't do anything tomorrow, I'm gonna be out of town all day.
or Wednesday.
Wednesday, Wednesday, I am around. Would anybody want to schedule an hour to start it, or how do you want to do it?
We'd have to give 3 days notice.
Oh, we do, okay. Well, it's gonna have to be 3 days notice, gonna have to be next Monday then.
Next Monday doesn't work
That's
for me.
Labor Day. That's Labor Day.
Next Tuesday. I mean, I'm just saying, can we do it here, a round table instead of,
I would rather not do it.
The 4th is the first time I can do anything.
and that day is what?
That's a Wednesday.
And what time do you think you want to do it at? 4 to 5:30 or 1 to 2 or?
So what's the earliest you could do it, Jim? This day?
Wednesday, the 4th is the first.
And the timing, Jim, if that worked, I mean, you'd
Oh,
rather
yeah,
do
what time? You know,
a 4 to 5:30, so you're not ruining your whole day.
or we can do it in the morning and get it over with.
I got a question for the group. So the workshop has to have a 3-day notice. That means Thursday would be an option too, but I'd be around Thursday, right?
Well, Thursday wouldn't be, if they notice it tomorrow's Tuesday.
Tuesday,
Is that
Wednesday.
Tuesday count?
Depending on the time of day.
That's out. Yeah, that's fine.
So if it does, would Thursday morning be okay?
I don't know if I could do it Thursday morning.
Now, what is expected of us? We're gonna look at the bylaws that were existing, and then we're gonna look at what people made suggestions. Excuse me, and put that into one instrument.
Here's how I would recommend doing it. I have the bylaws converted into a Word document, and I would recommend starting at the top. And as a group, say, anybody have anything on section 1, workshop it, talk about it amongst yourselves, I'll type whatever you come up with into the document. In fact, I can set it up so it comes up on the screen, and then just go down through until
And what happens then, we revise the bylaws, get it to selectmen, and they look at it.
that is procedurally what will happen. I recommend that they treat bylaws as though they're policy, which they really are, so that would require first and second reading. Public readings, where they would say, here's the first one, public has a chance to say, or yeah, we like that.
Is there
Then the
any
second
more-
reading is when they.
Is there any other expertise in the community on such bylaw writing besides the 4 or 5 of us?
That's probably,
If you read the bylaws, they're pretty straightforward. Not gonna take a lot of word drafting.
I can share with
To
you,
update them.
yeah, I can share with you some other bylaws that have been created recently, more recently in the town, like the comp plan committee. Some other ones have been updated. some of them-
I'm just saying, because I'm no expert, right? I'm no attorney.
You don't need to be.
You know, plain English, pretty straightforward.
Always-
Pass. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, Mary. So thoughtful.
So I don't know, pick a day, guys.
Wednesday, the 4th, does that work for you?
It works for me.
Any day works for me.
I'm working Wednesday the 4th, but I can sneak over.
So there's a meeting in the afternoon, it's hard for me to see what it is in this room.
What if it's,
Ordinance
it's the
committee?
yellow dot, it's the yellow dot ordinance.
Yeah, it's ordinance committee, they meet at 5 or 5:30.
We'll be out of here. I say 4 to 4:30, 4 to 5:30.
You guys don't want to do it in the morning? No? Morning's bad.
One works for me.
I can do about anything I have to, as long as we don't drag it out.
Yeah, no.
You like the
I'd rather get it over with in the morning, have coffee, then
I think these, open, open to the public, it should solicit public input, and most working people aren't available, to after, 3:30 or 4 o'clock.
Understood.
So it would be better to schedule, around the same time everyone else meets.
So, I mean, that's what's to take care of, if there is gonna be any input, somebody's not gonna take time off to work to come to this. planning meeting.
Sure.
What is your thoughts, gentlemen? Can you be here on the fourth?
I'm planning on going down to my house in New Hampshire on the weekend of Labor Day, which is what you're talking about. So in order for me to get down there and come back up here, the fourth could be a tall order. I'm not saying it's possible. But if anything that week, I'd say I can do it on the fifth, and I can do it at any time of the day.
That is Thursday.
That's Thursday.
I'm fine, so let's try something, give it us some time, so we can, so I don't forget, because my schedule's tight.
Yeah, Mark, it's to,
Give
Thursday's good.
4:30 Thursday till 5, or 4, we'd have to go 4, so we can go to 5:30.
Sure, whatever.
4 to 5:30 here at the town office, and that doesn't coincide with another meeting here.
Thursday the 5th.
Thursday the 5th, correct, doesn't coincide with another meeting here.
Nothing on here.
Everybody okay with that?
What time is it?
4 to 5:30.
What is your email? Joe, can you send that out to the library? Yep. Perfect.
That's, all right, that takes care of the bylaws. John, you have a lot to say about the RNF GPSD along with the letter we got from, I never get his name right, so I'm not gonna say it.
Irv.
Irv, okay. I am still a little bit concerned about the minimums of all those approaches. Lost 100 feet. But if nobody else is concerned about that, lost 100 feet of minimums in the new approaches, the way I see it. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it is.
I still don't understand why we're doing that.
Nor do I. I'm just asking the question, I mean, 100 feet is 100 feet.
Right.
I mean, I understand the nighttime stuff, and I understand the trees are gone, 100 feet is the difference between getting in here or not, and we're trying to get lifeline or something in here, and he wants to know whether there's 100 feet can be the difference between my kid living and dying. So I'd like to know why that approach is 100 feet higher than it is.
So there's an explanation in this email. Partway down the first page. Kelly, she understands the concerns. Look at the second paragraph. The FAA has an initiative to reduce the number of procedures in their inventory. That provide the same type of service. I'm not going to get into the details of that. Procedure had originally been published in 2011. There was a request to delete it in 2011, so the cancellation was wrapped into that initiative. There was a gateway request submitted in 21. There's currently a circling approach that's not sufficient for the runway. So essentially, this didn't start recently. This started back in 2011.
I understand that, but we used to have a circular approach from Berlin with a 360-degree turn with 100 feet less. Do you remember 062 turn for the 320, 100 feet less than you have there? Nobody liked it, but it was doable. And you had to know where you were. 100 feet is a lot when you gotta pick up somebody. Don, I mean, you agree with me? On a
Yeah,
snowy
no, I
night,
agree. Yeah, 100 feet's a lot.
On a snowy night,
Yeah, well, I have never flown on a snowy night,
well,
but I understand.
people don't have accents up here on perfect days.
Yeah,
So the way I read this email from Kelly is that this applies to category C aircraft for which we don't fly. So for the one aircraft, which is category C, which is likely to be life flight, this applies to them. We fly category A and B. And with category A and B being the approaches that we are going to use, I am in favor of maintaining the RNAV Delta for my use and people who fly like me in category A and B.
But you hear what Joe just said, the FAA is trying to trim their book down.
I know, I get it, you know, but we are, this is a published approach, and to keep another tool in my arsenal to be able to employ the RNAV Delta after I go missed
Now,
on the RNAV 3.2. I'm sorry, on the
John, I'm
RNAV.
not, can I ask a question? Is it possible that there's an error in the RNAV 3.2 from when the trees were there and it was never corrected on the minimums?
I don't think that it's an error, but it might not have been updated.
When we had the obstruction,
Flight check probably hasn't flight
that's
checked.
what I'm trying to say, so maybe, I'm just saying, maybe Flight Check hasn't agreed to a new minimums based on the trees now being removed.
Perhaps,
I don't know.
Hmm.
I would just hate to see as an airport member support losing 100 feet of minimums.
So I guess if flight check comes around and reflies the RNAV 3.2 approach, thereby reducing the 739 foot.
Yeah, we used to go 600, 599 and a mile. I mean, it was down there, but 599 and a mile, nobody knew you were home yet.
I'm gonna say that yes, you're right. I'm gonna say if the RNAV 3.2 approach has equal minimums to the RNAV Delta, then there'd be no question about it, we could remove the RNAV Delta. But if it is duly because of the trees and
Which have been removed.
which have been removed, but I don't know that the FAA has done their flight check.
Nor do I, that's a question.
Yeah. So
If Irv would have to ask, right? Did I say it right?
Yes.
Okay.
Do
Anybody,
you want me to reach out and?
anybody in the public, Cindy, you understand what we're talking about?
Yeah, I'm following
No,
you.
you see what I'm saying? I'd hate to go up to lose an approach.
Right, I didn't realize the trees had been removed.
They have, and-
Yeah,
but that may well be why the approach plate is showing a higher minimum.
right.
But I would hate to approve it to lose 100 feet.
Mhm.
That's, when did you,
Well, I mean, it was an important part of the runway extension configuration.
to get as
Is
low a
how
minimums
much
as
on
possible?
third side in 32.
And get Part 135 aircraft in here and get life flight in here. So if we're gonna raise the minimum, we might as well go to VFR road and not have all this stuff. Because at 1,000 feet, we don't need an instrument approach. Joe,
Use the pilot.
well, no, what I'm just saying, at 1,000 feet, you can almost do it.
Yeah.
No, my back, anyway, so can we ask Irv
Yes.
to see if we're misreading the approach plates? Or if it is a flight check situation? Does that make sense to you, Joe?
It does.
So when they do a flight check on this, if they could also consider removing the
The obstruction.
procedure NA at night.
Correct.
So I guess questions for the flight check crew is, were the trees the obstruction, number one? And number two, if they were the obstruction, can the minimums be lowered and can the procedure then be applicable at night?
Well, what can be, I don't, wait, I don't wanna speak out of turn. I was told 2 years ago that that was the reason it was on there.
Right, so if they could confirm otherwise.
And I never knew it. I was one of the first ones to call Joe. I was shooting it myself and they wouldn't give me clearance. And he said, "You can't do that." What are you talking about? I can't do that. What do you want me to do now? I'm halfway there.
Is this a procedure turn going out now?
No, it was the trees after you made the turn over Mark's old storage building. There was 3 tall trees. And the center said, you're done.
Yeah, I didn't see
If
it.
you ever broke out, you're done. You're not approved for that approach. Then we found it in the no tabs the next morning and I called Joe. Mark,
So I'm just trying to follow you, John. Are you saying if the minimum for the straight in approach was 100 feet lower than it is now, you'd be okay
No.
with getting rid of the circle approach?
One thing about that is technically not a straight in approach because it is offset 16 degrees. So a
Right.
straight in approach is one that's
I stand
coincidental.
corrected.
Yeah, no, that's cool, I get it.
the new procedure would be much
Right.
better if it had 100-foot lower minimum.
Right.
It would be equivalent to the old one that we discarded.
I'm just trying to follow.
No, it would be equivalent to the old one that we had discarded.
Yeah.
What we're saying is we don't want to discard the old approach if it's got 100-foot lower minimum. Unfortunately, you're gonna shoot that one first anyway.
Yeah,
So you're gonna not go around and try it again. I mean, going around in ranges is like cutting ball fingers off. I mean, going
But
around one
everybody
time is back and
complained
forth.
about the circling approach, and that's why they
Right.
wanted the new procedure,
Right.
you know, the.
Okay, so I guess that makes sense. It's flight check and the trees and the 100 feet, Joe, does that all make sense to you?
Yes.
And I'm not trying to put an axe to this thing, it's just that 100 feet's a lot.
Yeah, I'll email it to her.
And when we have a problem with a kid, 2 broken legs on Saddleback, it's not a perfect evening. Normally,
So explain to her that we're flying category
and Life Flight wrote this approach. What's his name? Joe wrote this approach for hoping to get it, because it was a better, felt better from Bangor on this approach.
Can we ask Mark if you have some more?
Okay, Mark?
So Mark, did you have some more to your question, or?
No, I was just trying to see if I understood you to say that if they lowered the present one 100 feet, you'd be okay with getting rid of the circling.
Yeah, so long as we can get down to about the same level on the missed approach with the RNAV 3.2 as we are on the GPS Delta, it would then make the RNAV Delta negligible and it wouldn't really matter much. But what needs to be found out is, A, if the trees were the impacting issue, and if yes,
Yeah, you're looking for the reason why it's 100 feet higher.
yeah, and it all comes down to all these formulas that the feds have. So if yes, and now we can revisit the newly revised minimum, then yes, that would be great. If the answer is no, then I'm gonna say if the RNAV Delta still needs to be in existence, because when you go missed approach on the RNAV 3.2, your next call is to Boston Center to request the RNAV Delta approach.
Mine's Portland, it's, do it if you want.
Right, yeah, either one, depends on who answers, because it's either Portland, which they always get a better signal, right? Or Boston Center, who technically is the controlling agency, right?
No, I'm just thinking about missing that approach with a load of ice on it, the dock in line.
Yeah.
When I'm going missed, I'm not trying it again, Joe.
Yep, you're exactly right,
Okay,
but, and I know you know that talking to Portland,
I've been there.
you know, so. So Portland, you can hear Portland much better than you can hear Boston.
You know, I was talking about going to Portland with a load of ice.
Oh, going there, yeah. Yeah,
Okay, so let's leave that for up to Joe. Everybody okay with that? We'll leave the approaches up to Joe and see if we
you want to copy that up?
Yeah, and give the.
I get an extra Delta, yeah, here's a Delta. Yeah, keep that, and I think I got some more, 1.4.
I can make copies if you need to.
You probably don't need the 1.4 anyway.
On the hangar lease,
No, I don't
thank
need to, I can go on.
you, thank you for your input on the approaches. Let's try to get to the bottom of it, because I don't think we want to accept higher minimums if we don't have to. So anyway, on the hangar lease update, Jim, you didn't do any more updates to do.
Not really,
So let's
but I
just-
would like to ask you guys is, can we come up with like 3 simple questions that you want me to ask these people, like? Because every time I talk to them, I get into these like conversations and it's, you know, they talk about T hanger, then an unheated hanger, a heated hanger, and it's hard to compare like apples to apples, so if you.
And I think our rates are the same no matter what. I think it's the square footage of land, right, Joe?
Yes.
So basically, it's talking about 100 by 100 blocks of land. What are they renting?
Okay.
Is that, Mark, would that be accurate?
What's that?
100 by 100 blocks of land, what is it getting rented for? That's the question. If Joe,
For a conventional hangar?
correct, well, you can do the square footage or whatever, right?
What's the square, how much you?
Well, I
leasing
think
per square foot?
mine is about 100 by 75, if I'm not mistaken. But it could be 100 by 100 for my lot. I don't
That's
really
just
have
a
a-
standard heated hangar.
Well, it's cold, but it can be heated irregardless.
Okay.
It's heatable. Because 100 by 100 would be, if you had the square footage of 100 by 100, by 3 or 4 different airports, Jim, you could do the math easily based on our leases.
Okay.
Is that agreed?
Okay.
Scott, I'm sorry, that's Scott. Scott.
Yeah, so, one thing to keep in mind with the hangars Because there's some airports where they own they own the hangars and they're leasing both the land and the hangars. And then there are other cases where there's an owner of the hangar and it's just the land lease. And I know that there are varying versions of that, like down in Florida where I'm from. They have, I bought my hangar, but it reverted, while I owned it, about 5 years in, it reverted back to the airport. So now I'm paying a lease on the hangar that I purchased.
You built it or bought it?
I bought it, if they're old hangars, there was like a 50-year lease.
Oh, so that it's
So-
50 years was up.
Yeah, the 50 years
Oh,
was up,
okay.
and I knew
Yeah,
that
okay.
going in. And there's an extension to the lease, but the deal was that in the lease, you have to go back and look at the lease.
So it falls back to the airport. See,
Falls back to the airport,
ours either falls back to the community or we take it home.
yeah,
It's a voluntary issue.
Yeah.
We take it down
it's a different situation, and I'm just pointing out that they're different,
and realize that was written
scenarios,
40 years
yeah.
ago.
Right. right.
Yeah.
That's just what's written today, written 40 years ago. I don't know how you would want to approach that, but. right,
Well, the people that have purchased hangars up at the airport, they have an existing lease, which I understand, ends in 2008. And it already says how much you can, I think it's 5% every 2 years. And it ends in 2008, and there's a 10-year optional extension, which I understand that the Airport Association is going to extend it another 10 years to 2038.
Okay.
So that's,
Okay, the only question that comes up every 5 years by somebody is the
Yeah.
rate. Is the rate reasonable or affordable
yeah,
for, compared to the other Pittsfields, Lewiston's, Greenville's structure? Because all CFA says we have to make an attempt to fund the airport. You know, are they too expensive or are they too cheap? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I've never asked anyone what they pay.
So, Mr. Chair, that segues into what I'd like to talk to you about. Scott's right, that there is every 2 years, there's a 5% increase. So last year,
Which was waived during the old recession.
so we talked last year, you recommended 5%. After that, when I sent the bills out, we've been paid for all that. When I revisited the lease, which I included in your packets, I picked up the fact that it's the odd years, the first even years, so it's the first even year, so we did it in an odd year last year. That's one thing I want to draw to your attention. The other thing I want to bring to your attention, which you just mentioned, was there's been a dry spell. The town hadn't increased the 5% since 2018 or 2016, one or the other. And it was discussed here in the board, in the commission room. And it was about what you just talked about. Are we competitive? And it was determined at that time just to kind of leave it alone. The way the leases work, though, there's that, we should be thinking about that, but the leases are kind of a contract. So the 5%, we have to do that.
Right.
So we didn't do it for some of those years. We did it in an odd year last year. I'm in a spot now where I'm looking for your input on, should we do it this year and then take a 2-year break?
And that's
Just-
why I asked 2 months ago that Jim had time, could he
Yeah.
survey 3 or 4 of the similar
Gotcha.
Pittsfields, Greenville? We had another name given up.
I have Pittsfield, Firebird, Lewiston.
Okay, and so if he could just get a square footage, no, are we cheaper or we expensive?
Just from the past history, when we did that 500-foot extension, and they, had to tear down your hangar that was out next to the Wool Lake Road, and move up there, and you had first choice to pick up a place for conventional hangar. At that time, the town manager and the airport commission, Robert Freehoff, Fluid, and Dick Eldridge, those guys, did what you're asking Jim to do. They did kind of an extensive study around the state on hangar leases.
That was 30 years ago, so we not up recently.
Well, I'm just saying that, they did that and they grew up they took a couple of years to get the conventional hangar lease, and then they did a T hangar lease as well. But at the time they did the conventional hangar lease, those prices fell in line with what was going on elsewhere, and and to keep them in line, they put that 5%
I understand
thing
that.
on every 2 years, but I think it's only been applied twice since the hangers.
I don't remember, all the question was, 2 months ago was, are we still in line?
Right.
Are we cheap or are we expensive? That was the only question.
I think you can table till next month, if Ken can get that information for next month, that we can make the decision next month, whether we do it today or whether we do it
Well,
next month.
here's what I would like your input on. My question is less about whether we're competitive or not, because I'm looking at the lease, so this is a contract. We need to charge this. My question is, we did it in an odd year last year before I was fully aware of, this clause in here. I want your advice, and I'm gonna end up in the select board room with this, but I want your input on it. Do you think it's acceptable or advisable to do a 5% increase this year and then skip 2 years? Which would be my recommendation.
Did you do the increase last year?
We did, the bills went out in the spring of this year.
I know they were a year late, so
We weren't a year late, we were several months late. They called for August. We're already late again this year.
that's what I'm saying, it was just a few months ago that we paid it,
Right.
and maybe if you put it 5, don't misunderstand. Don't turn across my desk, and I'd say yes or no, so.
Right.
I don't remember, but it wasn't a year ago that we got the invoice.
It was in March or April, probably April this year.
Okay. So it was almost half a year ago. So, again, I can't speak on the subject because I'm a hanger and owner. John can't speak on the subject because he's a hanger and owner. John can't either, but we can ask for all fairness to see what this average airport of our similar kind is charging some 20 years later.
I think that's useful information, but I just want you to be aware that
You just have to go to the selectmen and say there's been an adjustment in the rate. We can change the database.
I suppose they could.
Based on-
Is that the advice? of the-
If there was a reasonable up or a reasonable down and a feasible answer as to why. Right. Now, I don't know, if it's 5,000 or 500. I don't know what these airports are doing.
I have to, Mr. Chair, I have to look in the entire lease and see what the amendment.
Well, we wrote that once, we can write it again, if there's a huge correction. Yes. That lease was written once a year, I think. Whatever, so if you could get this reference of a vacant lot, correct? You would build your building. It's not the square footage of a town built building. Okay, which is what? King, I can't never remember that engineer firm.
Dubois and King?
No, came up here, and did this last renovation on the airport.
Dubois and King.
So is that was not there. They were talking
My
about,
French isn't very good, that's why.
okay, they were talking about us building, they were speaking about a positive move for us. We could try to find an FPO and build them a building, which would be certainly a different rate than leasing somebody a lot. Remember that when they were talking about, if you want some revenue, that's a way to do it. Mark?
So you mentioned about not being able to vote on that because you're a hanger on. But as far as answering Joe's questions of whether you want the increase this year to start on, even year, or you want to wait till next year for the odd year, you just so that it's on the every 2-year thing, which is what the contract calls for.
Well, the
You're not
contract, if you're gonna go with the contract, you gotta wait till next year.
No, it'll be this year, it's an
No,
even
this
year.
year.
Oh, I thought it was odd.
No, it's even,
Even-
if it hasn't
even year,
increased in
sorry.
prior even years, then it should
I'm
just.
sorry, I misunderstood. I thought he meant next year, but
Yes, so the contract, the lease actually says, what the lease actually says is that every 2 years, the town has the option of increasing it 5%, is that correct?
Mr. Chair, the language says, the said rental shall be paid annually and shall be subject to recalculation every 2 years, beginning July 1st, in the first even. of
Does
the
it
year.
say it has to be recalculated,
So,
or is it?
when I
is it
read
an
this-
option?
very good question. When I read this, Mr. Chair, I had the same philosophical deliberation, so I called the town's attorney, I said, what's your interpretation of this? And it was, there's no interpretation there, it's subjective.
So it should have been recalculated 5% up each time,
Every 2 years, yes,
but and I guess it wasn't for a period of time,
that is
and
correct.
that's the issue.
That is my understanding of the situation.
Okay, so-
That is the thing. That is
So,
the-
I don't care if you get back on the order, even with everything it says, but it'd still be reasonable for us to visit the rates, fair or not fair, for next year. If based on Jim's findings.
The only one I do have is about a ground lease was from Lewiston, they were 48 cents a square foot. This is 34 for us,
For their building, or, so for someone to build a building, it was 48 cents. a square
48
foot.
cents. That was, well, like I said, then one was like, I didn't write it down, 'cause it didn't seem right, but it was like 10 cents a square foot. And you laughed, so I didn't write it down.
But remember that you have some airports that are tremendously, the invitation is out there for growth.
Yeah, they just want
They
somebody to
want
show up.
growth at any,
I know,
at
right.
any little cost, at no cost at all. Because they want to prove to community and to the FAA that there's an activity.
Yeah.
It's all about operating.
But we're calculating our apron footage at 5 cents a foot, so
For what?
a nickel a
The
foot,
apron.
Okay.
uh,
so.
And they were 10 cents,
I
they
don't
were
know.
10 cents for outside.
Oh, yeah. Yes, Mike.
So are you suggesting that, the rate Rangeley charges to lease the spot to put a hangar is prohibitive to the flying public? That people that own airplanes find the price of Rangeley's
I've
leases
heard
so
that-
high that they don't want to.
Sometimes I've heard that, if it's part-time, if they need a hangar for, build a hangar for 90 days, so they're here for 100 days a year, they're gonna pay for 365 and spend $500,000 to build it, yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking. I would think, you,
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a supply and demand issue up there, you know, there's a handful of people who that are dying for hangers. You know, I've talked to just several,
yeah, but then you tell them it's gonna cost close to $1 million to build a new one, and they're not so happy about it.
well, yeah, it's funny because down in Florida, I've been involved a little bit with some projects down there with hangar development. And what I understand is that there are FAA grants which would allow a private individual to come up with $100 grand or something like that and have the FAA pay the rest as part of an airport expansion project. And then they pay a lease.
And who gets the lease, the FAA?
What's that?
Gets the
No,
lease.
the lease is with the town.
Well, they probably do that with the EIP money, not with federal. They're doing that with their EIP money, they can do whatever they want with it with approval. Joe,
I don't know,
As long as it's approved.
you know,
I'm sorry,
As long as there's approval.
that's with approval.
Yeah.
I think it's worthwhile to go with the contract the way it is now. Let's increase it to 5% for the even year. Gives us 2 years to redo the contract to make sure everything's up to date, because the contract goes through 2038. And then we're back on track. If we missed years, we missed years. It just all works out in the end. So I would recommend we do the 5% now.
Is that a
And
motion?
stay to I'll move that as a motion.
I'll second.
I would take a motion that we leave it as written, and we're gonna work on this for another year. Harold?
We'll still get the numbers from Jim, but if we've missed a lot of years overall, we're
Well,
the
that's-
rent, it's still in the renter's benefit overall, to stay with this.
and what's anybody's feeling on that, I've got to abstain, so.
I'm gonna abstain also, but I think Harold's got a good motion there. If 5% is very similar to the cost of living increases that we've seen in the latest inflationary statistics, I think it's probably within reason if we were to revisit
It's not
this
5%,
again.
it's 2.5 actually.
Oh, I see what you said, but we were gonna revisit this next year, right?
Well.
We won't
we
revisit
got
it.
at 5, so,
We won't revisit it, because it'll be every 2 years, it'll automatically go through 2030.
no, unless the board revisits it.
Unless the
after
board
this-
revisits, right,
After this billing.
right.
So Two of us have to abstain, two of us don't have to. Is that sound okay to you? To Joe to send them as written, and then we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there was a
Yeah,
motion,
yeah,
and I'll second it.
I abstain.
I have to abstain, so
I'll vote in favor.
All in favor?
I'm going over the table, so we're good. I say send it.
Technically, the motion failed, but I get the
Now,
sentiment.
what am I supposed to do? We only have 4 members.
No, so here's what we'll do. I've heard the discussion. I'll let you know that I agree with you. That was going to be my recommendation to the board, so.
So
that's
you're
what
allowed
I'll
to
do.
swing the vote, right?
I'm not voting, I'm just telling you that I will inform them, of what I've discovered and what I intend to
Well, I
recommend.
think the general consensus is we all agree, except we can't vote.
Yeah,
So,
It's in the contract anyway.
That's the way I'm looking at
It's in the
it.
contract
That's,
anyway.
that's how I,
It's
that's
just-
exactly how I read it.
Yeah.
There's no favoritism there. It's in the
Exactly.
contract.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
There you go.
right, so I don't even know why.
Okay.
Voted in.
okay, let's see, number 9, thank you. Pilot's Guide.
I don't have anything on this, Mr. Chair. It was something that a citizen asked me about if we wanted to update it.
There is one, or
Yeah.
was one, 25 years ago, written about, and I don't remember reading it for a long, long time, but there was nothing you could sit here and enforce. It was recommendations. That, to use 3-2 whenever possible, making left-hand turns whenever possible, 500 foot a minute whenever possible, but it was just basic rules of the road as I remember.
I don't remember it all, so.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, I remember, it, had recommended hours of operation. Like you said, it had recommended preferred flight path use and that type of thing. And at the time that was adopted,
It wasn't enforceable, but it was recommended.
they were recommendations, and they felt that, I remember quite a few of the discussions about it, that they thought that was a good thing, that, because the bylaws, the purpose of the airport commission was to promote goodwill between the airport and the citizens of Rangeley, and they thought by mentioning to people, it would be nice, if you landed by 10 o'clock at night, rather than 2 or 3 in the morning in the summertime when people's windows were open and stuff, that it would
Right, and there
help
was some
create
other,
goodwill.
I remember
and-
Steve
and
being
those
being
types of
alive.
things. Joe could print it out for you and put it in your packet the next time, just so you can familiarize yourself with it.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Read it.
I don't remember it at all, so.
I remember it, and I believe Steve and Dick Howard were still around then. And there was some discussion about it, and there were some errors in it, we talked about it, like people wanted us to go the downwind for 1-4 on the north side. Didn't want us to make right-hand turns in the 1-4 at night, which was,
I don't think it says anything
Suicide.
about that.
it was discussed as to why.
Oh, yeah, there were
it
lots
wasn't.
of discussions.
Great question. So remember, I'm wondering if we're off topic here, because I remember a pilot's guide. What is the pilot's guide? Who was the person who's requesting it? Remember the old brown, loose leaf, books that you would have that had pilot's
Yeah.
guide, and it had all the information
No,
regarding.
different, yes, I agree with that.
Is that what you're
Frequencies and
talking
stuff.
about?
No, it was something that the airport committee made up some 25 years ago to try to be good neighbors to the neighbors.
Okay.
I'll print it off for you
And
next
inform
meeting.
people that were coming to use the
Right,
airport
correct.
that hadn't used it.
Try to be a good neighbor.
It was on the website, if they looked on it, they could see what
Just to try to be a good
What the
neighbor.
preferences were.
I'm in favor of that, let's do it, let's get it, let's update it. And let's get it on the website, especially the town's website.
Now we have the airport manager's position, I recall,
Guys, one second.
so.
Is there anything on there about the floodplains? Is there anything on there about?
We are not in control of the floodplains.
Was that?
We're not in control of the.
No, I know, but we still recommend, right?
Yes,
The only reason I bring it up is because I've gotten some complaints.
I have to, and I've spoken to the pilots. Now I'm hearing complaints about that beaver that's coming in and out.
Oh, really?
I've had 2 of them the last week.
But
I've asked both of Keith's guys to please back some prop out of that thing.
I know.
And
It's a
I
lot.
asked,
I don't, I.
the other day I flew with John because he was having some problems. I said, John, what are you doing turning this thing 2750? 2550 is all you need. Let's try it. And he says, it does get off the water just as well. I said, yeah, you've got 5 people and it's give it hell, but when you got 2 people, 25, 50. I'm just.
But in this guide, if it's
You know,
just
you don't need
recommendations,
to- You can be a good neighbor.
if it's just good recommendations, couldn't we put in that in there too for the floodplains?
You can, but in the
I
past.
know it has no teeth, but.
In the past, we were told we had no jurisdiction, but we're certainly willing to make a recommendation in the pilot's guide.
Right,
Please be a good neighbor.
yeah, that's all I'm saying. That's what we're talking about.
Did we even have did we even have the sequence approaches? when that was-
You know, Jim, I would taxi all the way out of Aquatic Cove to Bonnie Point and head towards the island some mornings at 6 o'clock for heading well.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not gonna take off in the cove with that thing,
Right,
barking at 6 AM.
right.
Well, and plus the churches, with Sunday morning, different worship times,
You
et
know what I'm
cetera, that
saying,
could be
Cynthia?
a
When I left the
major.
cove, I wouldn't, if I had to go somewhere at 6 o'clock. I'm not going from the cove at 6, I'm going out like South Bog Island.
And the other thing too is like some of them, and I know, it depends on winds and stuff, but it's like a calm wind and everything. He wants to go north, he just like hugs the north shore, or if he wants to go south, just hugs the south shore. Rather than go straight out toward the middle of the lake, or just until you're out of
I
500
would certainly is something we could talk about, in a guide, we can't enforce it,
Right,
but we
right,
can
right.
certainly recommend. Mark,
I was under the impression where that's a registered seaplane base, with the FAA, if it's in the town of Rangeley, that, Rangeley Airport Commission did in fact, and the Rangeley Airport manager did have some influence on it.
oh,
How
I could be wrong, I thought it was told years ago that we did not have any influence.
Yeah, no, it's not, it's
Federal
Federal airport first.
So anyway, it's not a problem talking to some of these operators
Yeah.
about being a good neighbor. I've tried it, some of them listen, some of them don't. I mean, you realize that there's some days when you have a quarter of tailwind and 4 people,
Sure,
I mean, it's a struggle, and you don't want to ball one up out there either, so. But other days, when you got 10 knots or 15 knots ahead, but it's pretty easy.
Yeah. So I just, it's like, I guess that's not one, of it, just the prop on that
Yeah.
plane.
And they put in the motor, and now it's right 100 RPM greater than it used to.
So it's like,
Yeah, it's
My
not-
house about there before.
Yeah, so do I. So.
But who's the, if I may, who is the, who requested the pilot's guide? Because in addition to whomever the publisher is for this public pilot's guide, I'd like I mentioned this past month at our other meeting, I'd like to maybe put our own page up with similar information on it. So when you click on the airport page on our website, you can see what we have to say about it. In addition, make a hyperlink to airnav.com. And on our page on airnav.com, it's very light in information as well. So maybe see what.
That's only as good information as anybody reports to the
Exactly,
FAA about.
I know, that's what I mean. So for us to enhance our page,
For us to be delivered, it's not the fault of the guy.
right, well, we gotta provide them with the information. So if we were to update as many of those resources as possible, I think that probably would be in the best interest of all.
I think so.
So who is the pilot's guide publisher that you're talking about?
It was just a rule, matter of several
Oh,
months. And people put in code as time,
Yeah.
left turns, right turns, airspeeds,
Gotcha.
arrivals that would be more neighborly.
I see what you're saying.
But the
Because I
airport
fly
commission
in
created
Nantucket,
I'm
they
sorry.
have one
It
too.
was produced by the airport commission.
I know, that's what I said, no, it was.
Gotcha, okay, I thought it was produced by others, I still,
No,
because I had never seen it, I've been flying out here for 30 years.
Trying to be as neighborly as possible.
I get, because Nantucket's got one, not this thing at all.
Just trying to be neighborly,
Yeah.
so that anyone wouldn't make a right turn intentionally if we asked them not to.
Got
If the weather was, or the wind was, or the flow, that's a different story. Would they do it day after day after day, that's because it's not.
Got it.
So you go around that,
I don't recall
how long you been around this town?
23,
Oh, just a day. Just a day.
24, 20, something like, yeah, just a rookie.
There was exceptions, but it had some errors also. One of them was nighttime. They requested that at night, use the north side to land on the floor. Well, Kennebec Mountain's out there. So is that other one. I don't know if anyone that's trying to get in the dark and not take a right at dodge well.
Yeah.
For one foot.
Absolutely.
It's a savings. That's correct, no reason to go out now. But, anyway, okay. Number 10, yeah, 10. Joe, Jim, you mentioned that last month. I don't know exactly what we're talking about there. We haven't really discussed it, we tabled it then.
Right, I just brought it up, I thought it was something to think about too.
Here's something we can talk about, but can I say we have a lot on our plate for the next month or two?
Sure.
Okay. If anybody else disagrees with that, talk about mixing up that job position.
I just think it would be good to have it dedicated, like I said, no disrespect to Joe and to Rebecca, but you know, they're busy people, and they have a lot going on, it'd be nice to see someone that's dedicated to try to focus on our issues, that's all.
Can I ask, what's your position on this position?
I don't disagree with what Jim said. I think whether it's part-time or full-time could be, you know, hashed out, I mean, depending on what the service level expectation of the town is. But I think it would probably be good if they were separated. I'm in no rush to do that, so I don't want anybody to panic, I'm just gonna drop it. But I wouldn't be opposed to discussing it during the budget process with the budget committee, the board of selectmen.
Your opinion, you got it on the table now.
I don't know.
What would your assignment of duties for this group?
Say that again,
Your assignment of duties for this person?
for this person.
A little bit more airport oriented than just.
Right, maybe you can find something, maybe a movie out of like Emeryville or something like that that's trying to become more involved in aviation. Maybe the people that live around here that maybe won't do that.
And now you're saying so that we can see more positive movement at the airport, you're saying because we're slow now, or because
Yeah.
we really don't know what to do?
No, maybe a little bit of both.
Because we don't. I mean, we tried, we're only an advisory board for the selectmen, they don't know what they're doing either. And they don't understand evidence.
It would be nice, I mean, you know, we're not gonna find anybody that knows everything about airports is gonna come up to Rangeley Airport and help, you know, save our lives up here.
No, I understand, but projects of flying, anybody that was aggressively working on it could be, had some more fun to it.
Yeah. Try to make it more of a break-even airport, you know, try to.
And that's the next question. We're gonna talk, so can we talk about this 60 days from now, when we have a couple things off our plate that are much more serious than that? And then Joe's not going.
Can I just add a couple more things?
Sure, why not?
Okay. I'll be brief. I gave some thought as to what the airport manager's responsibilities should include, and I have 6 bullet points. Day-to-day operations, strategic planning, regulatory compliance, infrastructure development, reports to the airport commission, marketing, customer service, public relations.
Well, other than the public relations, that's all of our job for the first 5 you just said.
Exactly, and
But Joe then would have to take it to the select.
the airport manager reports directly to the airport commission and ultimately to the Rangeley town
I
officials.
understand that, but balls, we can make its recommendation. Joe or the airport commission takes it to the select. If they drop the ball, we look bad, but we tried.
Airport manager would report to it.
That would be one thing that
That's not, there's
I
no,
would emphasize, I didn't mention that
there's
earlier.
no.
The
But
town
if we go to the selectmen and say, let's get this.
In Plymouth, the airport manager reports to the airport commission. And then,
But again, we're nothing board. All we make is recommendations to the selectmen through Joe.
right. Through Joe, because he is the airport manager.
Correct.
So,
I understand.
yeah.
But if we elect to have move the taxiway improvement, the ramp improvement ahead to 2025. We've got to convince the selectmen of that and take it to the master plan.
Right.
And realize that the selectmen are concerned enough about it to do it. We need to sell it, and we don't do a good job at that.
And that's why I think probably Joe wants to be a separate person involved. So the airport manager and the town manager should be different people for that purpose.
Should
Is that why you were thinking that?
I think that has a lot to do with it, so that
Yeah.
somebody can focus on the details, make recommendations to me. I mean, you would be making recommendations, that person would be making recommendations, and then it would go to the board.
And I don't,
Right.
I shouldn't say
Fully
sell
baked.
it, but
Right.
Yeah, well, I think it's, you know, Stantec has been key to move anything that the airport commission has deemed important forward. I don't know of the select board ever saying no to
well, I'm not saying they
Stantec.
didn't,
Yeah,
no, I said, but it's our job to try to sell it. I'm not
it's
saying they
the,
gotta throw it away.
well, I mean, you've got Stantec though, that's, you know, handling the master
Yeah,
plan, the master plan updates, you know, they're your
I wasn't
go-between
insulting
between the
I was
FAA.
not insulting the selectmen, I'm merely
Yeah.
saying that we need to sell it to the selectmen, for them to take it to stand.
I have a concern just with the financial piece, just how this is all intertwined in the, you know, in the financials. However, it would be great to increase the revenue component of the airport, because I don't think that's really been a focus, you know, I mean, because that money has to go back into the airport. It has to be used for airport improvements, and so I
Well,
think
but
that's
that's-
something that's definitely been,
Well, I don't know
Lost
if it has to
on
be
years.
used, but.
it
it's-
has to, no, airport generated revenue must be allocated to revenue, to airport expenses. So,
I guess I didn't know you kept a separate pot of gold.
yes,
I thought
There's
it
a
was just a
separate
booking-
revenue
I just
column
thought
for
it was a booking,
airport.
a line item.
yeah, no, it's its own,
You have a separate account for the airport from revenue.
It's a line in the account,
It's just a line item account, right?
Right.
but it's
just
there.
like any
But
other
it's there,
revenue
it's
line.
there, it's a
Well, that's the next
dedicated,
thing we're
but
gonna
it's a
talk about.
dedicated revenue.
It's
Next thing we're
dedicated
gonna talk about, Mark.
I just wanted to mention that, Cindy is correct. Yeah, when we got our training from the FAA on the town's grant assurances and obligations, right here, the airport must be as self-sustaining as possible.
That's awesome.
And also, it goes on to say that any revenues generated need to be put in the airport account for improvements and operations of the airport. You know, that money doesn't go into the general fund or anywhere else, that goes in. Any money collected there from the business up there, fuel.
So, to answer that question, is it a
Fuel,
journal entry
storage
or is
fees
it a
and
separate
hangar
account?
leases, all that stuff.
And what happens to that journal entry?
What's that?
Is so, to Joe's question, my question to Joe then, is what Cindy said, is that strictly a journal entry? Or is it actually dedicated to that account off the $46,000 raise? Is it over and above? I think that's the next question. on this
I don't
agenda.
think the taxing of the buildings is airport revenue, but the leasing of the land is
doubt
airport
that.
revenue.
No, I
And
understand.
that goes into the airport account, is my understanding from
So this airport account has
reading these grant assurance.
$200,000 in it because nobody's ever done anything with it for the last 10 years.
What's that?
So there's a mystery amount of money out there somewhere, is what you say? Or is it a line
Let's not
item?
go that far.
Yeah, no,
I don't
there's-
think there's any mystery.
Let's not do that.
Can I just say, I totally agree with Cindy, I think that's one thing that frustrates me a little bit, I've been on the board for 7 or 8 years now, it's a long time, and I don't think we've done enough to try to raise money through the airport, and I'd like to see us do that, and I think with a dedicated airport manager, you know, maybe they could focus a little more on mission and get us going, you know, that's why I bring it up.
Again, I just don't know what you're gonna do for revenue, other than lease of land, and Scott says there are some people that are interested in hangars, we had another guy, Dick Elrick's son, there was all
Right.
done and ready to
Right,
go,
right.
which would have been another $2,000 or $3,000 a year to the fund, but
Right, and maybe they would have time to pick up the phone, make some phone calls, I don't know.
I think there's been a fear in the past that charging any fees out there is gonna discourage people from coming, and I just don't agree with it. You know, when those planes with the blue bottoms that fly in here from New York and New Jersey there, used to bring all the gimbals
wheels up, you
and Beth Brunswick and that, I was filling in I was chair of the airport commission at the time, and those folks were coming up, so they called the town office and Rebecca wasn't in, so they called me, and the guy said, yeah, we're coming up, he said, I wanna know what the landing fees are. I said, well, there aren't any landings. And he laughed. He says, really? He says, I don't know if we've ever flown into any place before that didn't have landing.
We've discussed it, I think, in all fairness, but you gotta monitor it.
And,
On that subject, if I can answer something else, you know, I'm still on Boston Center's phone number at midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning. Once or twice, every 2 or 3 months, I have to run to the airport at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, looking for a down there. Because somebody doesn't cancel their flight, but I don't know how I got there. I don't mind being there, and I don't know who else should be there. But, you know, at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm looking at the 31 hotel, and, it's already, the guy's gone, and he's gone with can, it's just, he just didn't cancel his flight. And the FAA knows that, because somebody would have heard the smoke right now, smelled the smoke right now, but somebody's still got to check it. Do we have an assignee for that?
I get those calls. I'm surprised you're still getting it.
Well, you're not necessarily even in Rangeley at the time.
That's true.
So
if I'm not here,
Wouldn't
they'll
that,
go.
wouldn't
I
that,
still get this.
wouldn't that be a full-time PD when that comes back online?
It would, in the absence of that, it's a 911 or dispatch.
Anyway, it's just something we should look into a little bit, Joe. I don't think I should be on that list anymore, to be up there at 2 o'clock in the morning looking for 31 hotel. I do get them 3 or 4 times a year.
It's probably
And I
still,
could be just on that one guy's Rolodex at Boston Center on the midnight shift.
yeah, I was gonna say, he probably still has you on his contacts, he just gets calling you. He's not gonna get the memo.
31 hotels.
I know what I'm just saying.
He'll retire soon and pull your name out of there.
There we go. Optimistic.
So I wanted to make a comment about funding. And I actually agree with Cindy and Mark on this. I think that I believe that there is there's funding that we can get for the airport based on traffic.
That's
And
always-
I know that Bethel had very low gas prices for a long time, and then someone got on there or whatever, and I just heard about it today, they raised their prices. Did they raise their prices? Does anyone know? I know I used to go there all the time for gas because it was cheap, and they got an FBO, they got federal funding for all sorts of stuff because people were going in there, filling up with gas, they'd go downtown, eat at a restaurant, and now they have higher gas prices, so people are going elsewhere for gas. So I realize that all I'm saying is that there are opportunities here at the Rangeley Airport to increase our traffic for the purpose of generating more funding from the FAA.
Now,
And it's based on traffic.
okay, for years, I flew instruments into your class. The only thing the FAA tracked was IFR approaches. They have no way of tracking VFR rifles.
Well, I don't know specifically how they do it. I know that one thing that was mentioned today was the gas pump. And that they often will, based on the amount of traffic at a gas pump,
Who
award
mentioned
funding. What's that?
Who mentioned this?
I believe it was Atlas. Was it
Oh,
Atlas?
at your.
At the airport meeting earlier today, yeah.
Sure.
So all I'm saying is that there are strategies that airports are successfully using to fund their, to get FAA money. And it's not hangar leases, it's not really about that, it's about, that's just locals, or that's the people that, live here or own properties here. It's the people that fly here from Bangor just that wanna have lunch, there's no car up there. There's a crew car, if you put a couple of crew cars up there, pilots would take them downtown and eat lunch at a restaurant,
Absolutely.
and there are, if you had an FBO, if we had an FBO, I understand there was one here when Steve was here. But if we had an FBO, then there's, that puts us in an entirely different category as an airport. So I'm just saying that I know that things were delayed in the master plan, I forget what it's called, it's the capital improvement. It was supposed to be redone in 2022, I think, it was 10 years old. And that might be something to consider reviewing or revamping.
Well, I guess
Plan
the thing to
around-
talk about is, if you made a list of 10 revenue producing opportunities at the airport, you can see how many of them fit into our category.
Yeah.
I mean,
But one of them
obviously,
is just
we don't
generating
pay.
traffic and getting the money from the FAA.
Yeah.
You know, might as well, you know, it's available.
Question for Joe, did the person that leases the fuel area up there, have they ever provided you with flowage figures?
I don't believe so.
You requested some, didn't you? When we were talking about the lease,
I believe I did.
I think you did get them, but they were minuscule on that year, but it was COVID. So I think it was negligible. During COVID, the amount of traffic, the amount of little bit of fuel that he sold, other than his own,
Yeah,
was so tiny that it wasn't hardly worth looking at.
yeah.
It's also $1 more than other airports. You know, per gallon.
it is,
I try that.
I can tell you that if that was my $80,000 up there, I'd be $1 more too. The amount of volume. It was $80,000 in those tanks.
Yeah.
That's not a game for everybody.
you said he spent 35,000 putting the credit card system on
Correct,
last year. So,
correct.
there must be some benefit to invest
But we
in
helped
credit cards.
he hoped so that he wouldn't have as much theft. He's having a tremendous amount of theft. Although nobody's writing it down on those.
I experienced that like gravel.
Okay. So, yeah, you understand how that's not that much fun, you're putting it up $20 a yard, you know. So, anyway, so on the revenue side of number 9, number 10, is that what you were speaking of, Scott, or is that what is on this agenda? Or is it because we spoke about it at the last meeting, about what is the revenue tier?
So you would ask for expense and revenue.
Yeah, I looked at your sheet, but I got lost in it, so.
So basically, the first 2 pages are the expenses for the year end, at the year end of last year. See what we budgeted. If you look at the top of the sheet, easy way to look at this is Trio, which is our software. All the way to the right at the top, there's a percent spent. So that's kind of the trick for management to look at and see where you're at month to month, week to week. So in this case, it's year end, that we expended 84% of the budget. So we came in under budget. If you want to look at details, and go down through each line. I know that, for instance, electrical, I don't remember what the numbers were, but lighting. So if you look at lighting, 2512, look all the way on the left-hand side of the page, there are numbers. So 25 is a sub-account, and there's sub-account of 512 is lighting. That was because we had a lot of gremlins with pappies and runway lights and a lot of that stuff.
Look, because the airport committee was not involved in the $48,000 budget writing process. The only reason I brought that up was how on track are we to revenue versus expenditures. Last month, I suppose that the airport committee did not get involved in the last 2 years. Budget presented to the budget committee, which went to the select, which went to vote. Sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when I read Scott's letter there in the packet, there, stuff, there's a couple things that don't show up on the expense thing. One is, I don't know that Public Works, keeps track of how much time they spend, plowing snow and things like
Well,
that.
that's always been an
Yeah,
argument.
if we move towards an FPO, that would be good to know what the value
I
of
agree.
snow removal is. And,
I
because
don't
if they're
know.
gonna take it over, it may affect, how much they pay for other things up there. So I think it would be a good handle to know how much the maintenance costs are for winter maintenance and also the mowing in the summertime and things like that. Those could all be in the pot so that we have a clear picture of all the things involved.
But you've got to think about that, though, you're not charging the town office directly to mow this either, and clean the bathrooms, it's just part of our operation. So how fine do you want to dial this in?
Well, I don't think it's all that fine. I mean, that's a lot of
direct
mowing up
service.
there. And
I
if
understand
an
that, I'm saying,
FPO
we
said,
don't-
I'm not that busy, I can do that. There'd be that value credited to him,
That's
same
right.
with the snow removal. He said,
See,
I
I
can take
thought-
care of the snow removal. If the town's spending 15,000 a year or 20,000 a year, that, you throw that in the pot.
I thought years ago, Mark, and I correct me if I'm wrong, this is from my memory. Several years ago, the town billed the airport $20,000 a pop.
No, because they don't charge per department. We don't cross-
No,
we don't
no,
cross
that's
charge.
before.
I'm not
Right,
aware.
am I right or wrong?
I know.
Didn't we stop cross charging
Yeah, I mean.
years ago?
Years ago.
So the reason that I brought it up the last one was strictly, what is the revenue at the airport against the $48,000 budget? That's the only reason I brought that up.
So on page, so there's your expenses, these are the first two pages, I didn't make you a ratio here, the last page is revenue. So it looks like the total there is $7,500. Mostly hangar leases, so if you look at that.
It's because the airplanes go left.
You have no airplane, no excise tax anymore,
Yeah, that used to be in the tenth, that used to be in the tenth.
very little excise tax, because they're all owned elsewhere. The only question that I would have to is not that it's a big number, but the hangars wouldn't be there if it wasn't the airport. So the taxation number of revenue could be considered that number, even though it goes to the general fund. If you're charging me $3,500 worth of real estate taxes on that building, and I take that building and go home, you're not gonna get that.
Right.
So, you understand? So I'm not saying you're gonna put it into that line item. I'm just saying if you consider the tax value as a number.
Right.
To prove to the citizens that we're trying. That makes sense?
I think it does, yeah.
Because they bulldoze the tent back. I don't know what the taxes are.
You
Total
mean the,
taxes on the tent back,
it's $7,000 for the whole thing.
$7,000. There is $7,000 worth of revenue that is coming to the airport in taxation that would not come if it wasn't. I mean, it's still going to the general fund, I understand, but it is still a factor revenue. So if you're saying here you have, Joe, $7,500, I'm saying you've got $17,000 between my hangar and his. Of revenue, which, to Mark's point, the only thing the FAA asks is to make an attempt to get close. How many other departments do we have that have revenue that are 40% close? Cemetery,
Sewer.
so, maybe,
So it's probably somewhere in
I don't know if you look at the improvements and stuff.
there. If you look at the
Being
operating.
slightly facetious.
Oh, okay. No, Cindy, you understand what I'm saying? mean,
I
it
do,
says to
I
make an
do.
attempt. Now, if we could get 2 more buildings up there, you get the 50% revenue that cost, not bad. If you could get 2 more buildings, right? I'm not saying that you could spend the tax money on the airport budget, but it wouldn't be there, is all I'm saying.
I think this is a great exercise though, to go through and just kind of keep an eye on how close you're getting to break even.
Yeah.
So one of the opportunities is, as I understand it, is if we were to have a full service FBO up at the airport, then you can charge landing fees for these King Airs and various larger
Again,
planes
but
and
you
stuff.
need to have somebody there to collect it, paying somebody to go up there for 4 hours a day, 365 days a year, to wait for that one guy once a month. You're gonna
You have
get
an
pretty
airport
bored, pretty broke.
mechanic who is operating on the field. They would probably be open to doing that too.
Know what I'm saying? Until you have that person, you're not gonna pay somebody. to do it.
You don't
Yeah,
need
no, I
a
understand.
person to pay for things these days, you know, with that Venmo and all that other stuff, you know, the credit card machine, you could buy fuel without dealing with a person.
So
You could pay a landing fee without dealing with it.
I would love to see an operator up there, paint shop, alternator shop, somebody doing annuals, but you're gonna have to invite them.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to try to maintain them, and you're gonna subsidize them to get them. Would you
You're
agree
gonna
with that?
help, you're gonna have to help
Maybe.
with startup costs, without a doubt.
I think that startup, if we were to get FAA funding for some additional buildings like an FBO and some additional hangars, we might be able to get someone up here. How about Kevin?
I think Kevin would be a great one.
So which
He
agenda
said
item
he's
are we
willing-
on now?
He's willing to jump
We're,
Yes, sorry.
Oh, there's the agenda?
no, I think we're still on 10, revenue, waste to increase
Yeah.
revenue. I believe
I
we're
don't
still,
see revenue under 10.
revenue report, under
Revenue
10.
report, yeah. It's
You
it's
do
a
it.
broad
Article
subject.
3 of
Yeah.
10 says revenue. Yeah, last month's,
I see, yeah,
Yeah.
no, right, gotcha.
so we are online, okay, we're done with revenue.
I think when we come back to the airport manager's position,
Yeah,
What to do. when we come back to this is when you start getting into
Yeah, exactly,
what you want,
exactly.
what you want out there, because I do think an FPL, I personally think we should own the fuel, but
Nobody's ever won.
nobody's ever wanted it, it's a huge liability, so.
All right, so 10, we're good at revenue, that's something else we're gonna talk about, announcements, I don't know what that means. We're gonna announce the fact that this meeting's about to come to an end.
Yes, we are.
Sounds good.
Okay, okay. On the next meeting, that is next Thursday at 4 o'clock, is that correct?
September 5th,
Next Thursday at 4 o'clock, on site here,
September 5th.
bylaws,
You're here, right?
everybody's on track with that,
you know,
okay? Then I would take a motion to adjourn. Adjourn.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Just
clear us out.
Earlier.
From the public, thank you.
You had a lot of questions open.
Everybody-
You know,